It's a season of cultural confusion, changing values, and endless noise. The world is broken into pieces, but where others see division forever, God is cultivating creators of connection, bridge builders. Welcome to Becoming Bridge Builders. Reverend Dr. Keith Haney will be your host throughout this journey. This podcast is for those who feel stirred to lead well with wisdom, courage, and radical compassion. We address culture's hardest conversations each week with biblical common sense and focused clarity. Our goal isn't just to win debates. Our goal is to stand in truth, offer radical grace, and actively build bridges of trust wherever you are. It's time to stop watching from the sidelines. Let's build together. Grab your blueprints.
What if the key to winning in leadership wasn't winning the argument at all? What if the moment everything feels like it's falling apart, the heated meeting, the difficult conversation, the relationship on the edge is actually the greatest opportunity to build trust? Today's guest has mediated thousands of conflicts, trained maximum security inmates to become peacemakers, and now teaches leaders how to stop arguments instead of winning them. If one conversation could cost you trust, talent, even a deal, you wouldn't want to miss this. Welcome to Becoming Bridge Builders, the podcast where we equip you to build stronger relationships, lead with clarity, and navigate even the toughest conversations with confidence. I am your host, Dr. Keith Haney, and today we're diving into one of the most powerful leadership skills you can develop, empathy. But not the kind you've heard about before. Our guest today doesn't just teach communication, he teaches emotional precision under pressure. Doug Noll is a lawyer turned peacemaker, the person executives call when one bad conversation can cost you everything. After 22 years as a trial lawyer, he stopped trying to win arguments and started stopping them. He's mediated over 1,500 disputes, teaches at Pepperdine Strauss Institute, and co-founder of the Prison Peace Project, where even maximum security inmates have learned to reduce violence through empathy. His best-selling book, De-escalate, shows how to calm conflict fast, and his upcoming book, Empathy Leadership, The Powerful Skills That Drives Winning Results, reveals why empathy isn't soft, but a competitive advantage. Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Keith, thanks for having me here. I appear on a lot of podcasts. This is the first time I've had shivers down my back.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for that. And for everybody who's listening, 5-star reviews. Put it right now. Don't screw around. Apple, Spotify, 5-star reviews. Do it now.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. I am looking forward to this conversation. I work a lot with organizations, especially churches mostly, and conflict is one of the things that can end so many wonderful ministries and partnerships. So I'm looking forward to you giving us some helpful advice so that we can not have those kind of problems.
Right. I've done my share of congregational disputes.
I've done mine too. None of them are fun.
No.
So, Doug, take us back 22 years. As a trial lawyer built around winning arguments, what was the turning point that led you to become a peacemaker?
Well, it was an evolution. It wasn't something that happened overnight. The short story is, I took up the martial arts in the 1980s. I was awarded my secondary black belt in 1990, and my teacher said, go study Tai Chi. And Tai Chi has two paradoxes. The softer you are, the stronger you are. The more vulnerable you are, the more powerful you are. Well, that didn't compute for a while. And then some years later, I was in a courtroom cross-examining somebody, and the thought came to me, what the heck am I doing in here? And that led me ultimately to enrolling in a new master's degree program in peacemaking and conflict studies. And that changed my life. So I left the practice of law in 2000 to become a peacemaker. And that's really how things started.
I love that. I'm curious, having done this for so many years, What was the most difficult conflict that you had to navigate?
There have been a few. Uh, I can't remember anything. Well, actually, it was a congregational dispute, and there was a big blow up between two groups in the congregation, and one side was supporting the pastor, and the other side wasn't. I completely failed that one. Completely failed. Learned a lot.
I'm curious as you think about this, because this is always critical for me. When you're dealing with conflict, what's the one thing that most people misunderstand about conflict?
What people misunderstand what people misunderstand is that conflict is not about it's not about logic or reasoning or anything like that. It's all about nervous systems. And until we can learn how to regulate nervous systems, we're never gonna find peace,
Mm.
and that's the secret.
And I think sometimes you're right about that, because we think about conflict, we do think it's about a right and wrong always, and it may not be about right and wrong. If you're trying to deal with conflict about trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong, who wins, who loses, I think you've already approached conflict the wrong way.
That's right. It's not about whose narrative is right or wrong. It's about how people feel. And learning how to recognize that and precisely naming what people are feeling is the secret.
And how do you work at when you're dealing with conflict to make sure people are heard? Because I think that's also important. Because when you're in the middle of a conflict, one person always feels like they're not being heard. They're not, their opinions aren't being honored. How do you make sure that you get around to getting people's emotional feelings, emotional status out? Because if you don't deal with that, you can never get beyond the who's right and who's wrong to get to a solution.
That's correct. The secret is called affect, AFFECT, labeling. It's the ability to recognize and name the emotional experience of another person. So, Keith, I might say something like, "You're really angry. You're frustrated. You feel completely disrespected and unappreciated and unsupported. And you don't feel heard. And you're really anxious and scared." And that process regulates nervous systems, calms the brain down.
When I hear that from the person who's across the table from me, that raises my anxiety. So I'm curious, as you help people deal with the other person's emotional pain, you got to also realize that you're raising the other person's emotional pain, right? In the process.
That is what people think, but that is not what people happens. Okay, so I'm in a mediation and I've got two parties. I'll go to this party over here and I'll listen to them. You're angry, you're frustrated, you disrespect all. And it might take me 5 minutes. I turn to this person and say, "You're angry, you're frustrated." 1 minute. Why? Because this person over here has mirror neurons and they are experiencing the de-escalation experience as I'm talking to this person over here. And rather than being offended or upset or whatever, they calm down. It's magic.
Well, that's great to know. See, that's a misunderstanding I wouldn't have gotten.
What's really interesting is that people hear about this idea and they immediately go reactive. How could this possibly work? And it's what's so true with neuroscience. Everything we think we know about ourselves is not true.
Right. I love that. Before we get too much deeper in this, because we're going to get deeper, I'm going to ask you my favorite question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ooh. I don't remember. There's a reason for that. I was born with some very severe disabilities, and I did not get a lot of support from adults when I was a child. And I really didn't have very many good leaders. I kind of had to do it all on my own, which led me to some really maladaptive behaviors and attitudes that's taken decades to work out. So, not unlike most people, I wasn't given good advice.
Mm. And what's the worst advice you ever got?
Worst advice? Can't remember that either. There you go.
So you teach something very different when you call it naming emotion. We get back to that.
That's right.
You name it, name emotion, to calm the nervous system down. Help us understand what actually is happening to the brain during conflict. Like, I want to get back to what you were talking about with that. What's going on during conflict?
So, neurophysiologically, when we get triggered, a threat response fires in our brain in a part of the brain called the amygdala. And that sets off what's known as the HPA, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, cortisol, fight or flight. Prefrontal cortex becomes inaccessible. Can't think anymore. We have a dysregulated nervous system. Sounds weird because I've got this echo going on. So our job is to regulate the dysregulated system. And we do that by naming emotions. I discovered this in 2005 in a really difficult mediation. And then 2 years later, the science caught up with me. And a brain scanning study out of UCLA showed what was happening in the brain. Everything that I had been observing as a mediator. And it shows that when you name emotion, you inhibit the emotional centers associated with negative emotion and activate one single prefrontal cortex region that's associated with emotional self-regulation and self-awareness. Literally, you help the other person calm themselves down. And it happens in every single human brain. Universal.
That's fascinating. So tell us, why you talked about a little bit, the logic fails when emotions rise. Tell us why that is.
Right. So when we think about logic, reasoning, critical thinking, all that high level stuff, it requires a functioning prefrontal cortex system. And when the threat response goes off, that system becomes inaccessible to us because we're only focused on the threat. Our brain thinks that it's being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, and we can't think. So we have to engage at a lower level, not by reasoning or logic or persuasion. We have to be at the emotional level and name the emotions. That's what's going on.
So I love this. So let's get practical.
Of course.
So walk us through what someone should say in a critical conflict moment.
Right. Number one, use statements only. Don't use I statements. Don't use passive voice. Don't ask questions. So I would say something like, Keith, man, you're really angry. You're frustrated. You feel completely disrespected. Nobody's listening to you. And you feel unappreciated and unsupported. And you're really anxious. And you're a little embarrassed. And you're sad. You want connection, and it's not there. So it's really upsetting. And at the end of the day, you feel like you've been betrayed and rejected. And the whole thing just really pisses you off. Now I'm going to do that, and I'm going to watch for 4 relaxation responses. I was seeing a nodding of the head, some kind of verbal response like, yeah, dropping of the shoulders, sigh of relief. The body's yes. When I see that, then I think I'm done, but I got to check. So I ask a question. Anything else? And if the answer is a grounded no, that's it, then we can move on to problem solving. If it's not quite grounded or it's equivocal, so tell me more. And we go back into it. And that's how we do it.
So I like that. How do you, does this require, who's leading this? Is this a person that's in the middle of the conflict, or is this a neutral mediator who's doing this?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I could be a leader and have somebody really mad at me, and I'm going to label them. I could be a neutral third person, either a professional mediator like myself, or just somebody else. Maybe I'm a leader and I've got 2 vice presidents who can't stand each other's guts, right? So now I'm mediating between them, and it'll work there too. Or maybe as a leader, I walk into a meeting and I see that I got nothing but dysregulated nervous systems. I'm going to affect label the whole group and start calming them down.
And so once you've got them through that emotional piece, you say you get to problem solving. So is that when you get to what brought us here?
That's a good question. How did this all start? Where did this come from? What's it going to take to fix it? How are we going to approach this problem? What do we need to do to make things right? All open-ended. And we really resist giving advice or telling people what to do. Really resist that.
And if you are the problem, then you are asking the question, what can I do to improve the situation, I guess?
That's right. And that's when if apology is appropriate, that's when it's appropriate. Not until then.
So how do you end this? Because, we get to the point sometimes where we've identified it, we've named it. How do we bring this to a conclusion? Because I'm always like, okay, can we leave now? Do we hold hands? Do we sing Kumbaya? How do we wrap up this session once we've identified it and we've named it?
Basically, we have to ask a question. Anything else? Is there anything else we need to talk about? Are we good? And if it's a more formal circumstance where we're going to have a written agreement, then we got to get the agreement done. People sign it, and you're done. That stuff's done. But mostly, it's just asking the questions for closure. Anything else we need to do?
Do we need to set deadlines or check in to?
Oh, sure.
Because I'm curious. Because a lot of times we kind of leave things dangling.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
Yeah. So how do we make sure we just don't we had a nice meeting?
It depends on. Yeah, it really depends on the circumstance. But I'm a big time and action guy, and I'm big on accountability. So we could say something about, so let's check in next week and see how things are going. And then I'll say, do you want to call me, or do I call you? Zoom or in person? All right, let me set up the Zoom link right now. And that's the accountability piece. And here's what I was going to say. When you set up accountability, more people are going to do what they say they're going to do, just because you set up the accountability.
Right.
It's like being a kindergarten cop.
Oh, I like that.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think that we sometimes don't tie the end off this conflict, and we just kind of leave it there, and people walk away going, well, I got my emotions out, but we didn't solve anything.
That's right.
We don't want to leave people not having solved anything.
Right. Well, what I find is that in 95% of the cases, when you engage in affect labeling and you de-escalate people and you engage in this nervous system leadership, the problem solves itself. Most of the time, that's all people need. They just need to be heard and validated. And then the problem goes away. And what's really cool, if you're a leader and you start doing this practice consistently, the chaos goes away in your organization.
And we all want the chaos to go away.
We all want it to go away.
That's right.
That's right.
So let's talk about your upcoming book, Empathy Leadership.
Yeah.
So you argue that empathy is not a soft skill, and I've heard somebody else say that too, but it's a leadership advantage. So
Correct.
what inspired you to write this book right now?
I learned of the interview between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, in which Musk said, empathy will destroy Western civilization. And that pissed me off. And then I started looking at how the journalists in the business press, like Inc. and Fast Company and Forbes, were talking about empathy in the HBR, Harvard Business Review. And they had it all wrong. And then I went out and did a literature review, and there are hundreds of books on leadership empathy, all wrong. Most of them wrong because they talked about the what and never talked about the science or the why or the how. And I have that knowledge. So, write a book.
Let's talk about that. What do most books have wrong about empathy that your book tries to correct by giving you a proper understanding with science-backed empathy?
A couple of things. First of all, there's no such thing as rationality. We are emotional beings. Every decision we make, every behavior we engage in is emotional. Got to make that mindset shift. Second, when people come into your team, they are not rational beings. They are emotional beings. They're nervous systems. You have to regulate those nervous systems. Nobody talks about this. Third, the only way that you can regulate nervous systems is through affect labeling. Name the emotions. And here's how you do it. Nobody else talks about that. So you'll hear people talk about empathy in leadership, and they'll give you all kinds of examples, but they'll never tell you how to develop the skill or how to measure the skill, because empathy is learnable and measurable. It's measurable. And that's what distinguishes empathy leadership from everything else.
What I like about the way you approach this is a lot of leadership books talk about, what to say. You talk about what to hear. So as a leader,
right.
How do you teach leaders, especially in positions of authority, how to hear and be better leaders because they're hearing better?
Number one, they have to be motivated to learn, of course. Number two, it's a simple skill. Learning how to listen to emotions, not words. Takes a little bit of practice, but not much. Most of my clients can master this in 8 to 10 weeks, an hour a week. So you're changing the way you're looking at the world and your people. And you're looking at logic and persuasion and reasoning and analysis as tools, but not as communication. And you're really working on the emotions, not the problem. And when you make that shift, everything changes.
So how do you convince leaders that empathy drives results, not just relationships? Because that's got
That's right. So there's a real paradox here. There's one study that says leaders hate empathy. It makes them look weak. vulnerable, indecisive, they lose their authority, they lose their power, they become vulnerable to being exploited. And then there's another study that says that the single most crucial determination of leadership success is empathy. So, how do we get leaders to engage in a practice that gives them everything they want? Safety, trust, loyalty, productivity, retention. And the secret is science. Showing them that what they had thought was empathy was not empathy at all. It was something else. And that what they were taught was empathy was not empathy at all, but something else. And that the science of empathy shows us how human beings actually connect with each other at a neurobiological base. And that's what they have to learn. And it comes down to one skill.
What's that?
Listening to emotions and then naming them precisely where they used to have been.
So I'm curious when I hear this, if you aren't leading with empathy as a leader, how do you deal with conflict in your organization if you don't have empathy figured out really well? So what are you seeing with people in terms of big mistakes they make with conflict if they're not using empathy as a way to deal with the conflict?
They're not resolving it. And the conflict gets ignored, or people shout and scream, or you assert your authority as a leader and say, it's my way or the highway. All of these different mechanisms, none of which work. And, it's hit or miss whether or not the enterprise will succeed. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I can think of times in my organization where empathy was not the way I led in the middle of a conflict. And I remember how painful that situation was.
That's right. So here's the thing, Keith. At any given moment, our brains are asking three questions. Can I trust you? Am I safe with you? Do I matter to you? If the answer to any of those questions are no, I'm going to get dysregulated. And I can't think, and I can't perform. I'm dysregulated. And your job as a leader is to prevent that from happening. And if it does happen, regulate me.
Wow. Anything else about the book you want to share with us?
I'll share this. 80% of the women that read this book will love it. 30% of the men that read this book will love it. 30% or 40% of the men that read this book will say, not sure. 30% will hate it.
So you just got to get the group in the middle to like it.
That's right. Because this is not about rugged individualism. It's not being about the commander in chief. It's about nervous system leadership, being human, treating people as humans, and doing it well.
So I know for men, like you mentioned, you kind of alluded to this. The fear for men is that empathy makes us look weak. So how do you get men over that sense of being empathetic is not a non-masculine thing?
Right.
So how do you work around that mental block?
I'm in a room. Guys, do I look weak? I'm a secondary black belt. I'm a Tai Chi master. I'm a level 3 certified ski instructor. I've got 2 graduate degrees. I'm 75 years old. I still sail. Anybody want to call me weak? Go ahead, call me weak. That's how I do
it. So I want to talk about your work in Prison of Peace Project, and that was incredible. Mm-hmm. You trained inmates in maximum security environments to become mediators. What did that experience teach you about human nature?
Oh my God. So much. Taught me more about myself than anything else. The first time I walked into a maximum security prison, those doors slammed shut behind me. Scary as can be. You get used to it after a while. But in the beginning, it's intimidating. What I learned was the worst of the worst can be reformed and rehabilitated. I taught some pretty amazing people. One of my best mediators was the founder of the Aryan Brotherhood. I worked with guys coming out of violent gang, all tatted up, amazing peacemakers. I taught women coming out of South LA and East LA, gangs, murderers, fabulous peacemakers. In fact, one of them stopped a gang riot. We weren't there. We didn't hear it. We just heard the story. So the story goes that these two gangs in this women's prison were lining up to go at it. And all the correctional officers were getting their SWAT outfits on. And our mediator walks out into the yard, grabs the two ringleaders by the ears, walks them 20 yards of the fence, throws them against the fence, and mediates right there and ends the conflict. Pretty crazy. So it was amazing work. Exhausting, difficult, frustrating, but personally and professionally, it's the most rewarding work I've ever done.
Oh, that is amazing. So I'm going to ask you some lightning round questions, kind of some fun stuff
Thank
as
you.
we've kind of wrapped this up. This has been a great conversation, by the way.
Thank you.
One word that defines great leadership.
Listen. Don't talk. Listen. And listen to the emotions. There's a book called Leadership Without Easy Answers. Ron Heifetz, 1996, I think, Harvard. And he talks about the 3 psychological services a leader provides a group: direction, focus, safety. Focus on the safety.
It's great. Morning routine or a night owl?
Morning, 5 a.m., maybe 6. 3 shots of espresso, hot tub, watch the sun come up over the mountains. And every now and then, a red-tailed hawk will sit right on the post above me. And I get to throw my disc to my little border collie.
That's great.
Book that changed
Book
my life.
that changed your life.
Book that changed. There are a lot. I would say the first book that comes to mind is Lisa Feldman Barrett's book. She's a neuroscientist out of Northeastern University. How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain. Extremely influential on my thinking. And then Matthew Lieberman's Social. And what others? All the early neuroscience books by Joe Ledoux and Antonio Damasio, all those guys. Really influential.
Awesome. Biggest myth about conflict?
Biggest myth? Probably that it's unavoidable.
I've heard that a lot.
It is not unavoidable. In fact, when I work with my clients, my guarantee is you'll never have a fight or argument again in your life. But it's based on thousands of years of experience. And we've only had the neuroscience for 20 years to stop it.
Makes sense. Best way to reset after a hard conversation for you?
I think getting exercise. Get out and walk, swim, run, lift weights, do something. Get your body re-regulated. And exercise is the best way to do that. And the reason for that is because when this threat response occurs and we got all this cortisol, the only way to get it out is by exercise, because that's what our body's primed for.
That makes sense. One habit every leader should develop.
Humility. I'm not sure that's a habit, but no, humility is everything. I used to be one arrogant SOB. To the degree that I became a peacemaker, I started learning humility. But it was the prison project that kicked it out of me.
Yeah, I could see that.
So learn humility.
What makes a conversation for you unforgettable?
Somebody actually listens to me. And that's really rare. I mean, my wife and I will go to social events and we'll come back and compare notes. Did anybody listen to you? No. Anybody listen to you? No. How much listening you did? That's all I did is listen.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you my other favorite question, Doug. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want every human being on this planet to know how to listen someone into existence.
That's great. That would be phenomenal. If this
There would be. Imagine what our communities would look like, our faith communities especially, if people took the time to listen to each other into existence. It'd be very different.
So would our political, so would our social.
Everything. But let's start where we can fix things.
Right. Start in our churches. Right.
That's right.
So Doug, where can people best find you, pick up your books, and learn more about you?
DougNoll.com. I've got a big YouTube library, so check that out. Books can be found everywhere. And Empathy Leadership is available for pre-order. So you can go to Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, all the usual outlets, and pre-order it. De-escalates in 5 languages, so you can find it wherever you are in the world. And again, all the usual places.
Awesome. So we have something new on the show, Doug. It's a surprise question. Pick a number between 1 and 10 for your surprise question.
Okay, I'm going to pick number 3.
Would you rather have unlimited sushi for life or unlimited tacos for life?
Ooh. Probably sushi. Only because I can cook tacos. I'm not so good at sushi. I've messed with it, but I haven't done it enough to get good at it. I'm a cook.
There you go. Well, Doug, thank you for joining us and equipping us to become better bridge builders. If you found today's episode conversation helpful, I know what you need to do. Here's your next step. Share this episode with someone navigating a difficult conversation. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and start applying what Doug shared today, because one conversation can change everything. Be sure to check out Doug Noll's new book, Empathy Leadership, releasing this September. It might just transform the way you lead and connect. You don't build bridges when it's easy. You build them when it matters most. I am Keith Haney, and this is Becoming Bridge Builders. Doug, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Keith. Been a great conversation.
Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that will be listed in the show notes.
It's a season of cultural confusion, changing values, and endless noise. The world is broken into pieces, but where others see division forever, God is cultivating creators of connection, bridge builders. Welcome to Becoming Bridge Builders. Reverend Dr. Keith Haney will be your host throughout this journey. This podcast is for those who feel stirred to lead well with wisdom, courage, and radical compassion. We address culture's hardest conversations each week with biblical common sense and focused clarity. Our goal isn't just to win debates. Our goal is to stand in truth, offer radical grace, and actively build bridges of trust wherever you are. It's time to stop watching from the sidelines. Let's build together. Grab your blueprints.